Now it's time for Gotham Talk Radio's In Your Face Politics with Brad Gerstmann and David Schwartz.
Saturday night in New York, it's Gotham Talk Radio with Brad Gerstmann and David Schwartz. We are here live, and it is unbelievable to be here on WMCA. I can't believe it, Brad. I used to listen to WMCA as a kid, and now we're here. And you know what this is, Brad? You know what?
This must be such a highlight of your life because. Go ahead.
Listen to me right here. It's a Saturday night. We're in the Zev studio, WMCA. You know what this is? You're looking at the ending of a career right now.
Right.
That's what you're looking at. So when you go outside, just put some rocks in my car.
Right.
Because this is the end.
Right. Well, this must feel great for you, Dave. I mean, this is like a return to your childhood, to all the great memories of listening to AM talk radio, and now you've risen to the highest level of talk radio, and you're here in the world studios of WMCA, New York, and we feel great. I wish you guys out there could see what we're here. I mean, it is incredible. It's state of the art in here. It's the most incredible looking studio with all the mechanisms that you'd want. I got 700-year-old earphones on. I mean, this microphone.
There's dust everywhere. You know, I have allergies. I have that mold allergy.
Yeah, it sounds like you're about to pass away.
Do you have the EpiPen with you right now?
You can't believe it. You got to see the video. This is a low point in my career. But let's move on to the important part.
Let's introduce ourselves to our new audience today, our WMCA audience. We have been doing Gotham Talk Radio on and off for a couple of years now. This is going to be a political show, okay? So I know you're used to the religious stuff all day long, and it's wonderful, and you have some wonderful hosts on this network. However, get ready for some hardcore politics in this next hour, and we have a great show for you. Brad, you want to go through some of the things we're going to be doing today?
Yeah, look, we always hit hard on all the political issues, and what's more popular these days in New York City than we have the mayoral election. So we're going to be lucky enough to have former mayor candidate John Catsimatidis, who's going to be online with us. So that's super, and we're going to talk about, we're going to really knock the cover off the ball on the mayor race, but we're then going to jump into probably the biggest race in New York City, which is the hottest race. I mean, because it's really not much of a contest as far as mayor is concerned, but the biggest and the most controversial contested race here in New York City is in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office with D.A. Hans and Ken Thompson.
Right,
so that's going to be that's going to be something we're going to really hit on, and that's what's going on in New York City. So that's what everyone wants to talk about.
Is it the mayoral race?
No, it's the mayoral race.
Is it mayoral?
Mayoral. Yeah, you always say mayoral, but go ahead.
But anyway, so we're going to start off with the mayor's race, and John Catsimatidis, not just a former candidate for mayor, he is a New York City business icon. He has built himself up. What a story John has had from he grew up in Harlem, had no money, and now he's a billionaire, and he's built up just a tremendous business, and he's a tremendous philanthropist also, and that's what most people don't get about John Catsimatidis, is all the giving he does. And I have to tell you, if he were the candidate, I think things would be a lot different.
Well, that's what we got to talk about. We have a race, okay, if you want to call it that, for mayor, and we have a Republican in Joe Lhota versus a Democratic candidate who was vetted through a tremendous and high visibility primary process, Bill de Blasio. So just the primary process in the Democratic election, in the Democratic primary, was just outstanding to watch. I mean, that was great stuff for politicos.
By the way, just to reintroduce this show, we've had some tremendous guests over the years. We've had Bill de Blasio on the phone, on the line here. We've had Governor Patterson. We've had John Catsimatidis. We've had Carl Palladino on the show. We've had so many.
We've had a whole bunch of senators. Senator Eric Adams, who will be the borough president of Brooklyn. We've had, and John's been on a number of times, thankfully, and a whole host of other politicos. Ed Cox, I think, was on, and some others. So we've had a great run. Dave and I are, we run Gotham Government Relations, and we handle everything from lobbying to consulting to communications to campaigns, and as well as our law firm, Gerstmann, Schwartz, and Wink.
Yep.
So we handle all kinds of legal matters.
I have to find the number. I forgot the phone number. Yeah, just keep
all right, you keep looking, but you know what? The Democratic primary was incredible. Oh boy!
Okay, for all of
and cut.
Our number here is 212-769-1925. We welcome all your phone calls today for our opening act on WMCA. So, Brad, we've had Bill de Blasio on the show, and we even commented to him about a year and a half ago that, Mayor de Blasio sounds pretty good, and we were joking around with him. We had called it a couple of years ago, and so what's your take on his just lightning in a bottle, like just sort of catching fire? He looked dead for so long, and now he caught fire. What's your take on that?
Well, it was interesting what happened. I mean, when Weiner jumped in the race, he took the air out of the race and had all the votes, and we were had John Liu in the race, and he was surviving in there. But once John Liu had some problems with his people in federal court, and then you had Weiner with his second round of sexting scandal coming out, it seemed like all those votes went to Bill de Blasio. And at the same time, you had Christine Quinn, who was losing steam because she had hit her pinnacle early in the race because of her name recognition. As she dropped, Bill de Blasio picked up those votes, and all of a sudden he surged at the end. So it was a tremendous thing. I think it was a great political strategy on their part. But and he really is. We know him. He's a really really good guy.
Yeah, he is a good guy. But let me just touch on something you just talked about, Christine Quinn. Is it just that she got hot early? She was up. She was doubling the percentages of all the other candidates combined. Where do you see her campaign has gone wrong?
Well, she had the name rec, so I don't think it went wrong. I think it was what happened is she had the name rec and came out on fire, and then as the other candidates started getting the name recognition, started to let their campaign take control and getting them out and meeting the different people, I think that people found that they were better candidates, especially Bill de Blasio and Bill Thompson, more so than Christine Quinn.
Especially that Sal Albanese, right? You were predicting Sal Albanese.
Yeah, I was predicting.
He was going to catch fire. But we have our great guest. So, Brad, I'm going to let you do the honors of introducing our repeat guest on Gotham Talk Radio.
Yeah, our favorite guest, and he's always able to shed light on all different things from politics to business to philanthropy. We have the business icon, business titan, philanthropist, and a political guru and former mayoral candidate, John Catsimatidis, on with Gotham Talk Radio with Brad Gerstmann and David Schwartz. Welcome, John.
Good evening. How are you guys?
Hi, John. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, we're having a little trouble. John, you should only see where we're sitting right now. This studio is something that you've never seen before in your entire life. Is
it still 50,000 watts?
It's 50,000 watts. I don't know where it comes from, but we're in clutter with about 50,000 little items around. But John, thanks for joining us. There's no better person to shed light on what happened in the mayoral race, especially on the Republican side. You were a hot contender there, and it was an exciting race. And why don't you give us your insight on especially the Republican side of the race with Joe Loader, yourself?
Well, I started off at 5% name recognition, and we did some advertising. And our name recognition went up to about 85%. And we had a 65% favorable rating, which is good for a candidate. The whole thing was, I wasn't fighting Joe Loader. I mean, a lot of people didn't know who Joe Loader was. I felt I was fighting Rudy Giuliani. In every commercial during the primary campaign, it was Rudy, Rudy, Rudy. Rudy says do this, Rudy says do that. And it's tough to fight a legend like Rudy. And we lost. We won the outer boroughs. 47,000 votes within the outer boroughs, and we came up just about 50-50. And Manhattan, we had a disaster, and it just didn't smell right that out of 11,000 votes, we only got 3,000. And it is what it is. Life goes forward, and I have no regrets. I had a great time. I spent my own money. I think we spent over $10 million. But it was worth it. I got a lot of good experience.
Well, we had the honor and the pleasure to see you on the campaign trail, and it did look like that you were having a blast. You were meeting people. It was just, you seemed to be in your element on the streets of New York City,
I love people. I love the people of Staten Island. They're real people. The people of Brooklyn, Queens. I love getting around, talking to them, hugging them. I really had a good time.
You know what?
I love being in all the parades. I was in almost every parade.
You own those parades. You were in every single parade. But what do you think a Catsimatidis race would have looked like around now? Catsimatidis, if you could just...
It's funny you say that. I know Bill de Blasio for 15, 20 years, and Bill called the other day and he says, I'm glad I'm not running against you. I don't know if I should be honored or what.
Yes, well, you should be. And the big thing here is that Joe Loda's not getting any traction. I mean, I'm not saying anything that everybody already knows. You see it in the polls. Why do you think Joe Loda is not getting at least some activity, some kind of pulse from the Republican Party and the Republican stalwart?
Well, look, Joe has alienated some people in the Republican Party. There was a blog out this afternoon from a Republican saying, look, I could go for Joe wanting pot. I can go for him wanting this and this and this, which is all Democratic items. But when he disses the parts of the Republican Party, that I couldn't go for. And some of the Republicans are upset, so you might lose Republican votes. And Democratic votes are very, very hard for him to get because he was part of the Rudy administration, and people will never forget the Rudy administration, especially the Democrats.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he's running for mayor. He doesn't seem to connect with people on that type of level. When you're in a room with Joe Loda, he just sort of, blends in. He stands in the corner. He doesn't have any presence at all. When you walk into a room, when de Blasio walks into a room, when Christine Quinn walks into a room, you feel something's happening. When they walk into the room, they make sure they make their rounds, meet everybody. His ability as a retail politician is real lacking. Have you noticed that also?
Well, I've noticed that, but I tell you, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting the people. I enjoyed giving them hugs. I enjoyed talking to them, and I think the vibes were there, where they knew that I wasn't just acting, that I really, really liked them, and I really enjoyed them. And, I got my training in politics in the days where I spent a lot of time with Bill Clinton, and I told that to Republicans. I wasn't hiding it.
You know what, John, is you hit it right on the head. Is the feedback was clearly that, this is a guy who's being truthful with us. This guy who's just telling it straight. He's not putting any polish on it, and I think everyone liked it. But I think there's something that has to be done with the Republican Party in New York City. You can't.
The Republican Party has to become more competitive.
Yes, well, the only way to do it is when you have a guy like you running and someone else who's never held elective office, Joe Loda, and someone like you who is a prominent individual. You can't have a divisive primary if you want to have any traction in New York City mayoral campaign, and that's in a general election. You just
you got to remember the statistics I was giving out, which were all true. Romney lost New York City 81-19. Carl Palladino lost to 5 boroughs, 83-17. Wendy Long lost to 5 boroughs, 85-15. And Loda is well on his way to doing the same type of statistics. And the Republicans have to realize that the 5 boroughs are different than the rest of the world. And if the Republican Party, if we reestablish a Jacob Javits Party, a Nelson Rockefeller Party, if people remember those names, where the Republicans, what I was advocating, that the Republican Party that I envision is to be pro-business, pro-safety in our streets, but also recognize that the elderly have worked hard all their lives, and we have to get them what we promised them. And the kids that are our future, we have to work hard to make sure they get the right education, and not and not just make excuses that we can't afford the budget. The one argument I got into with Joe Loda, where on 325 housing projects, 20 of the crime of New York City. And I said, well, let's put a cop in each one of those 325 homes or projects 24/7. And he says to me that, oh, we can't afford it. It's going to cost this. I said, when you're talking about 20% of the crime, what do you mean we can't afford it? And, Joe has to understand that. And, look, he's still got 2 weeks to go to try to pull it out.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that all the law-abiding citizens in those projects would appreciate your idea.
Well, poor people deserve to be safe, too. And Republicans have to be able to say that and not just be the party of J.P. Morgan.
You know what? People can say it. It's just the right person to say it. And I think a lot of people would agree that when you say it, John, it comes from the heart and it sounds right. But, I'm not looking to jump on a dead carcass here, but, Joe Lhota is not the guy for it. He doesn't have the personality for this business.
You're listening.
And it's something that you did, and I think that there's a lot of buyer's remorse on the Republican side, John.
John, we're coming
I've been told that.
Break. You are always a tremendous guest, and you are always invited on Gotham Talk.
Well, thank you, and maybe we'll talk again near future.
Absolutely. Thank you, John Catsimatidis, the great John Catsimatidis, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming up against the break. We'll be right back after these messages. The call-in number, again, is, I forgot what it is. Oh, 212-769-1925. This is Gotham Talk Radio. Bye.